What's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, here to do a review on Alex KURDECHA's match with ARTYOM Morozov at East vs. West 11. Definitely one of the most exciting matches of the night. There were a bunch of exciting matches. You can make an argument for which one was match of the night. I don't know. I think this one was, in my opinion.
Yeah, so rare that you get a super heavyweight match that's this entertaining, this intense, with like different technical aspects of the game. So we wanted to review this one first.
Yeah, and I think everybody really liked it because it was a serious battle on the inside, again with two absolute monsters. It's just, you know, there's like so much horsepower in the table as you see them trying to fight for getting a shoulder forward. You're just waiting for like something to explode, and nothing did, which is also awesome because nobody got hurt. But really exciting match. So let's just start with round one.
Okay, so round one, they're both fighting up high in the setup, and it looks like KURDECHA hits for a kind of a sweeping top roll, kind of like what you would think Travis Bajan would be doing, where it's high into the side. But Morozov just supinates and just sticks in the middle, tries to set that hook, and is able to get KURDECHA into the hook. But KURDECHA is still just accepts the fact that he's in the hook and just goes like balls out, trying to hit over and over again.
Really working, and then you see Morozov hanging on, and kind of gets distracted from the match. You see him look away and just squint his eyes because he's like hanging on for dear life. But he's at this point he's gaining position and winning. Alex is doing a good job of not hitting out of position too much, but there's a lot of opportunities here for Morozov to tighten up and suck it in and get closer to his arm, and he gets a little too distracted on hanging on because he's so fucking strong.
Yeah.
He's kind of, you can see him screaming like he's kind of having a I'm the Hulk moment.
Yeah, and he gets turned like this, where he's lost all pronation.
Yeah.
So. And like, even though KURDECHA has lost a little bit of his shoulder, he's managed to get Morozov stretched out a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So when KURDECHA eventually comes back to his arm,
this is where Morozov really misses an opportunity. Like he could have, in some of those hits, sucked it in a little bit, but in this moment, you really see Morozov kind of like come out of that distracted, like so in his head moment, and kind of realize that KURDECHA's gotten position. Then Morozov goes to make a hit and doesn't get anywhere, kind of pulls himself out of position. At that point comes back up, but again, because he's so strong, even though KURDECHA gets over his arm and starts to press him, he's able to hold him and forces KURDECHA to reach over the center of the table and get that pesky over center foul.
That dumb foul.
Yeah, because he's just too big. It's just, it's not his fault. He's 6 whatever million. But anyway, so that foul, they get a restart, and then in this restart, in the setup, we kind of noticed as we watched it over and over a few times that you can see that KURDECHA, he gets super hyped up with that round, and he knows that he's really in it. And then when he comes back, you can see in the setup that he's a little uncertain, especially in his shoulders. They're up, they're down, they're moving. Then they kind of get in an awkward, like crouched position, which I've noticed for myself. I know I should be tall over my hand, and I'll see in matches that happen in Zurab where I end up down here like this, and it just doesn't go good from there. And you can see KURDECHA in that same position before the second restart of round one, like after the first foul, and KURDECHA gets down like this and then hits super high for a post, and Morozov sucks him down.
And then Morozov's able to go on the attack, goes on the offensive for a bit, does a few drives. KURDECHA realizes it pretty quick.
Yeah,
right?
KURDECHA does a much better job of what Morozov didn't do in the first round, of staying tight with his arm, not getting too distracted on the fact that he's able to hold him, and really starting to work. So he stays tight to his arm.
He fills in the gaps.
Yeah, exactly. You can see him sucking him in a little bit, filling in the gaps, and basically it's back and forth a little bit, but he continues to get position until he's able to finish him with a press. Actually, you see Morozov kind of again hanging on at the bottom, losing his pronation like this, and then his bicep sort of gives out a little bit, and he comes back up to re-grip, and when he does, that's when you see KURDECHA really get over it and then come into press. So again, the things that Morozov kind of should have been doing the first go on round one is what KURDECHA does in the second pull of round one, and was able to really suck Morozov in and get over his arm and get the press.
Exactly.
It was really impressive arm wrestling
very technical from KURDECHA, which is what you would expect from Morozov, being that he's the more experienced puller. KURDECHA hasn't pulled in a long time.
Yeah.
You would expect Morozov to be the one that's able to be that tactical on the table and make those smart decisions. But it's like Morozov is
just, it was the other way around.
Morozov is trying to be strong. He thinks he can muscle his way through the match, and KURDECHA is like figuring things out.
Using the techniques, Exactly.
Again,
once the strengths are close enough, which they obviously were, then it becomes really technical, and that's where KURDECHA in that round just out chess moved Morozov. Now this is again where the experience becomes interesting, because as the match continues, that sort of eventually reverses, I feel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is I think interesting, where the experience does end up favoring Morozov by the end, right?
Okay, so into round 2.
All right, guys, so now round 2. Morozov a little bit more offensive off the go. He kind of hits for a press, but Alex drags him out a little bit of it. So then he turns his press more into like a drag hook. But again, he's just much more offensive, keeps it on his A side of the table much more. But Alex, again, does a great job of staying close to his arm, playing with good positioning. And you can see him start to take Morozov outside of his shoulder and start to get some of his thumb. Alex is obviously thinking about getting that press in again, and Morozov has kind of a champion's moment where he just goes fucking all out, gets behind it, and boom, presses through. So again, I think one of the reasons why people really like this match is because it's so much of that battle in the center of who's going to get the shoulder in, and in that round, Morozov did. It was not too complex of a round. But Morozov's still a little bit immature with his movements in the beginning, of being a little too like piss and vinegar, like just going a little too with too much angst at it and pulling himself out of position. But then that piss and vinegar is probably what got him behind his arm and allowed him to finish that press. So double-edged sword. It has its advantages and disadvantages.
But great positioning by KURDECHA to hang in there in that hook. Beautiful, like trying to work those angles and make micro adjustments. The only thing I could think of to give him a chance to win that round was to get his elbow more on the back of the pad. So Morozov would have had a harder time to get behind his shoulder, because he would be a bit more extended.
There was I was really impressed with KURDECHA in this match, of how well he was moving and just technically arm wrestling, considering how little we've seen him arm wrestle recently. So that was really impressive, but it was also like, because he had to be so on point, it was like little mistakes in those techniques that I think led to a lot of the losses in the rounds that he had, because especially in those first 2, even though he got one of them, Morozov is really kind of making mistakes with how aggressive he's being, and Alex is doing a good job of exploiting him, but could have done a little better, as you can always do better, right? You can always be critical. So I guess round
1-1 on to round 3. All right, so on to round 3, both guys fight up high in the setup and decide to go top roll. KURDECHA hits the top roll and immediately loses the riser, and KURDECHA decides to hang on. KURDECHA drives to the side, and Morozov loses his wrist hanging on, but has control of KURDECHA's knuckle, decides to just squeeze on, hold on for dear life.
Eventually gets his finger.
Because Morozov has such control of KURDECHA's index finger, KURDECHA can't get out, and Morozov decides to flop him and pushes him off the pad.
So foul.
Foul on KURDECHA.
Yeah.
They both do the exact same thing, top roll, but this time
Alex loses his hand, and when Alex loses his hand, he ends up pushing Morozov off the pad. So another foul. So now it's foul. Round 3, and now KURDECHA gets crafty. So this is your move. You beat KURDECHA.
Okay. So again, I mean, it's clear, you can see it in the video. KURDECHA now has that shoulder forward. He even gets a little warning by pushing.
There's a little like false go, and you can see this like where Morozov pulls back and KURDECHA pushes a bit.
So Morozov should have seen it coming, but anyway, KURDECHA off the go, flop press right to the pad. Beautiful.
It was a great move. And again, so not too not a grinder of a round, not a lot of back and forth, but a lot of technical moves that actually happen in that slip, the second slip. You see
when you see, if you've watched it, you should watch it. Go get the pay-per-view and pay for it. Or at this point, it might be out on YouTube. But either way, support. The point is, the second one, you really see KURDECHA like dramatically lose his wrist. You can even hear Neil in the recording, like, uh-oh, like he had a moment of like, shit, that's not good.
Yeah.
And it's like KURDECHA knows like to go right, like he takes that moment of that pull and like folds it right into the next pull by setting up for the flop off to go on the next one. And Morozov, again, maybe a little too much angst, is caught up in the idea of like, we're both trying to pull back as hard as we can.
I've just won that twice.
So I'm going to win it again. Exactly. And so again, really impressive by KURDECHA to how well he was playing the game, you know. So
now he's up 2-1.
Yeah. On to round 4. All right, guys, on to round 4. So now we're starting to get into where, like the last few rounds, it's been happening. You even hear Neil say it in the recording, where like the guys are getting beat because they don't know what's coming. Now Morozov is starting to get an idea of what's coming. He knows Alex's hand is compromised. He's beat him the last, 2 or 3 times that they've gone there. So unless Alex is an idiot, which he hasn't proven to be so far, he's not going to go to try to beat him in the hand again. And you can really see in the setup, Alex kind of forgoes worrying about where his hand position is. He's leaning forward a lot. He's not really setting up back pressure. And it's clear that he's just looking for this connection with the palm, which now, if you're an experienced arm wrestler and you get to the table and you feel that, you should pretty much know that what you want to do is this. And that's exactly what Morozov does. KURDECHA gets a bit of a stop in there, but then Morozov just finishes through his hand, and it's a pretty quick and easy round on that one for Morozov. So now this makes it 2-2.
Yep.
And at this point, you're really not sure. Like, you're waiting for Alex to come back, but it looks like the experience, the endurance, everything, the athleticism is starting to go to Morozov's side.
Yep.
So round 5.
Round 5. Okay, so in round 5, it looks like KURDECHA's getting tired. He's a little unsure of where he wants his shoulder. He's moving around different places. He's trying to test out the back pressure. I think he figures out that that's not the lane to go.
Yeah.
So even though he does have a little bit of post, like his shoulders dropped, he hits the side. But Morozov's superior fundamentals, his cup, his supination, he's able to just completely dominate the center of the table and easily pins.
Yeah, I think it's like we were saying, like this is where the fatigue and experience is starting to take effect. Morozov is looking much more composed at the table in the setup, like he knows what's going on and where he wants to go. And like Alex said, you can really see KURDECHA's shoulder like moving around, and then when he hits the side, I think the superior fundamentals. So again, now the fatigue is starting to set in, and the strength, they're not as close in strength anymore. So now Morozov just looks like he's just overpowering people, or overpowering KURDECHA. And I think that happens a lot in arm wrestling too, where once that strength gap is exceeded by just a percentage or two, it can look like it's, like they're not even close to each other, and that's not actually the case. So you'll see matches that end 3-0 or 3-1 where it's actually a lot closer than that, and that's what's starting to happen at the end here, where Morozov's got that little bit of edge on the strength, so it just looks like domination on the table, which is pretty much what happens in round 6, which is the next round. Okay, so now round 6, which does end quickly at the end. But Alex has still got that warrior spirit. He's still got that championship I
don't know how he did it.
Mentality. Yeah, he stays in the beginning of the fight. Morozov, again, he kind of makes a couple little mistakes, brings himself out of position. But once they get to the strap, it's over. But we'll go over how they kind of stick together there. So Morozov hits for a bit of a drag hook, and somehow Alex is able to stop him and get onto his arm, and then they get really wrist to wrist. Alex starts to search to try to get that tricep in again, and that's where you see Morozov kind of come out and look for the hand, ends up getting a foul. We get the restart. On the restart now, Morozov hits high again.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I know I can own him here. Let me just go for the hand.
Exactly.
And completely buckles KURDECHA's hand.
Yeah.
And that's when KURDECHA's like, just commits that flop and actually gets really close.
Yeah, but Morozov's got enough arm left over. He's able to get out of there and get to the strap. Once they get in the strap, this is where now you can see those two pulls have taken their toll on Alex. Alex, again, if he had an inexperienced moment in the match, it seemed to be in the setup. After something high intensity like that, the next setup, he seems to be a little lost of where exactly he wants to go.
Because they're changing positions and techniques so often. I think that's why he's getting so confused.
Yeah, exactly. Which maybe is a little bit of ring rust because we haven't seen him actually compete. Because there's a lot of difference between practicing and competing, and a lot of that comes down to just decision making. Because when you make a decision in competition, it's like that's it. Yeah. You don't really have a chance to go back and be like, okay, let me try it this way now and see what happens, right? So, yeah, Alex is looking a little lost in the setup. Morozov is looking real secure. I think something obviously was coming around with the strap. Like once they had the strap together, I think Morozov probably the power levels. Like if out of the strap they're like this now, in the strap they might end up like this, where Morozov's just way stronger.
Yeah, and he had him pushed off center. Yeah, he had a great setup and was just able to just dominate him right to the side with a press.
Yeah, exactly. Very easy finish at the end. Yeah. And again, it just doesn't look like Alex even really gets a chance to initiate. Like you said, even off the setup, like he's not trying to fight back for center before the go. He just looks kind of like he doesn't really know, or he's just fatigued at that point, you know, which is understandable. Yeah. This is a fucking exhausting sport when you're going that hard, and again, these guys are huge. KURDECHA's what, 350 pounds, so that's a lot of meat to be managing at the table. So, but unbelievable match.
Unbelievable.
Definitely, I think match of the night. But there were some other really good ones we'll go over. So yeah, that's our breakdown. That's pretty much play by play of what happened.
KURDECHA is a phenom. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back and fighting for that top spot again. I'd love to see him face Vitaly or Hermes. Yeah. Also, Morozov, it'd be great to see Morozov pull those guys.
I think there's no shame, and a lot of guys, especially guys that come from other sports for some reason, want to come in and be like right at the top because for whatever reason. But I think there's no shame in making some steps up the ladder, and I think Morozov gets a couple, like come down a little bit and take a couple, not easy wins, but like wins that KURDECHA, comes down and takes some wins that he can really move up the ladder with, and 2 or 3 matches and he's winning that match, you know? So I don't know who. I think there's a lot of great matches for KURDECHA. I think we need to see who the next contender is going to be for Morozov. I don't know that there's anybody that I can think of that's like the obvious next choice for Morozov.
Well, I mean, in terms of super heavies, there's Vitaly, there's Dmitry Silayev, there's Hermes Gasparini. You can obviously pull Matyashenko, who's the champion in the weight class below. Yeah. But apart from that, I'm not sure.
But I feel like I'd rather see any of those 3 guys pull Alex next than see them against Morozov. I feel like Morozov kind of
cements himself as like on another level.
Yeah, with his win over Alex.
Maybe.
But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting matches out there. We're not trying to be the matchmakers, but I think we need to find out who the next contender is for Morozov, more so than like any of those guys that we mentioned is a great match with Alex. Anyway, that's the video. Hope you liked it. Please comment, subscribe, smash the bell, do all those things.
And monkeys out.
Peace.